Hello class 9. Today I am starting with the respiratory system. That means respiration in animals. Now in the last class I have completed respiratory system in plants. So that is why I am starting with respiratory system in animals, because both are related chapters, so it will be easier for you to correlate the chapters. Okay. So first thing, definition we have already learnt in the previous chapter, and also the equation which I am showing you here, this also we have learnt. Now today we'll start directly from the important 5 characteristics to remember about respiration. First thing, the part of respiration yielding energy occurs inside the living cells, and hence it is better known as cellular or tissue respiration. The breakdown of glucose to carbon dioxide and water does not occur in a single step but in a series of chemical steps. Some of these steps occur in the cytoplasm of the cell and some inside the mitochondria. Each breakdown step is due to a particular enzyme. The energy liberated in the breakdown of the glucose molecule is not all in the form of heat, but a large part of it is converted into chemical energy in the form of ATP, a chemical substance called adenosine triphosphate. And the last point, the essential steps of cellular respiration are same in plants and animals. So first thing we have to remember that because this is a physiological process, so it is occurring either inside the cell or inside the tissue, so definitely it is known as either cellular respiration or tissue respiration. Secondly, this is a very broad process, so detailed study includes a series of chemical steps, and some steps occur in the cytoplasm and some steps occur in the mitochondria. I hope you remember the cell organelles which we have learned earlier, so it will be easier for you to understand. Thirdly, because this is a metabolic process, so it requires a number of enzymes. Enzymes are biocatalysts. This helps to alter the rate of reaction, but it does not participate itself inside the reaction. So definitely enzymes, they can be protein in nature, they can be steroids in nature, so they help in alteration of the rate of reactions of metabolic activities. Next, the energy which is liberated, which is the main concept of respiration. This energy is not at all like, it is not liberated only in the form of heat, but it is also liberated in the form of an energy currency, which is ATP, adenosine triphosphate. So we all call this ATP as currency of energy, and most part of the energy is liberated and is stored in this form. And the fifth step is, again, we have to remember that in the previous chapter we have learned about the respiration in plants. So respiration in plants and animals are definitely different processes, but the essential steps always remain same. Now, why do animals need more energy? The need for production of energy is greater in animals than in plants. This is because animals consume more energy in doing physical work. They have to move about for obtaining food or run away to escape enemies. They have to chew their food and have to look after their young ones or eggs. These are the two, you can say, reason why do animals need more energy. Now birds and mammals need still more energy among the animals. Why so? Because they have to produce a lot of heat for keeping the body warm, because we are warm blooded animals, and this heat comes through respiration. The amount of heat to keep the body warm is quite large. Think about the cold winter days when the outside temperature is far below our body temperature. We are constantly losing heat to the outside air, and more of it has to be continuously produced to make up the loss. Liver cells in particular produce much heat, and the muscle cells also contribute to it. So you have to remember these 2 points. Liver cells particularly produce much heat, and the muscle cells also contribute to this factor. Clear? Shivering and clattering of teeth. When one feels too cold, we know that we shiver, is an emergency activity of the muscle cells to produce extra heat. Now, why glucose has no alternative for respiration? If the simple carbohydrate glucose is not available directly, the cells may break down the proteins or fats to produce glucose for respiratory needs. Think for a while about the wild animals, which are totally flesh eaters. The main constituent there is protein with very little carbohydrates. The excess amino acids absorbed are broken down in the liver to produce glucose, and the nitrogenous part is converted into urea and excreted out. The glucose thus produced may be used immediately or may get stored for future needs. Similar process takes place in humans if they take protein rich food. Clear? That means what? Glucose has got no alternative in case of respiration, because whatever we are eating, that is being converted to the carbohydrate, which is the simplest carbohydrate, that is glucose, and then only we can get the energy. Okay, now there are two kinds of respiration, as we can see here: aerobic and anaerobic. Aerobic means with the help of oxygen, anaerobic means in the absence of oxygen. Aerobic respiration may occur even in our own body in the fast working, it's anaerobic respiration. It occurs even in our body, fast working skeletal muscles temporarily, because we are organisms who cannot think without oxygen, right? Our life cannot think ourselves without the help of oxygen. So uh, definitely we perform aerobic respiration, but in certain cases we can find that anaerobic respiration also occurs inside our body, that is especially in our skeletal muscles during continuous physical exercise, as in fast running, walking over long distances, swimming, wrestling, weightlifting. you know uh, our muscles work too fast but not getting enough oxygen. In this situation, the muscles are working in the absence of oxygen to provide extra energy. The product in such muscles is lactic acid. Accumulation of lactic acid gives the feeling of fatigue. Fatigue means tiredness. We feel pain, we feel tired. This is a condition which may be called as oxygen debt, because it is the lack of oxygen in those muscle cells. When you rest after such exercise, the lactic acid gets slowly oxidized by the oxygen later available, and then the debt is cleared, producing carbon dioxide in the process. So after we take rest, again we regain back the original state of our body, and lactic acid is slowly oxidized at that time with the help of oxygen, which is available afterwards, and the date is cleared. So this part is very important, students. You have to know in which part of our body and when does this anaerobic respiration works, and what do we mean by oxygen date. You can get short questions from here. Okay, now chemical steps in respiration. This equation we all know, but this they have given in the form of energy. So we are getting here 686 kilocalorie per mole. So this is the overall chemical change which can be represented by the equation. This equation you have to practice, and till now we were writing just plus energy. Here we are writing in the form of kilocalorie per mole. The above equation depicts the chemical substances in mole. Thus, by taking 180 gram of glucose, the energy released is 686 kilocalories. Okay. In the above equation, we can represent energy in the form of ATP also. Here we are getting 38 ATP plus a small amount of heat we are giving out, that is 420 kilocalorie. It's actually not small amount, students. It is a big amount of heat energy. Along with that, because we have divided it into two types, one in the form of ATP, another in the form of heat. So in this equation, in this particular equation, we can see that we have written both the ATP and the heat energy, right? Now in anaerobic respiration, just now we have read that it gives out lactic acid. So glucose with the help of enzymes breaking down into lactic acid plus 2 ATP plus heat energy, because very small amount of energy is released in the anaerobic respiration. So special points we have to remember about anaerobic respiration. It is a slow process. The reaction cannot continue for long time. The product lactic acid has a toxic effect on cells which causes muscle fatigue. No CO2 is produced. Total energy released per mole of glucose is much less compared to aerobic respiration. So these are the 4 important points about anaerobic respiration in animals which you have to remember. And see students, this chart, this is a very small table they have given by differentiating anaerobic respiration in plants and in animals. In plants we are getting the product as ethanol and CO2 and alcohol, and here we are getting lactic acid and no CO2. Released heat energy is more, released heat energy is less. CO2 released causes foaming, no CO2 released, so no foaming. Clear students? So students, today up to this. Next day we will again continue from the parts of respiration. Up to this, please go through the chapter. It's a very important chapter for your final exams, especially, and also for other exams. So definitely you go through the topics properly, and whatever equations just now we have seen, practice it at home, practice the differences also. Next day I'll come back with parts of respiration. Okay, and any problem, come up with that in the comment box. Thank you.